Anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Thank you. Well, we're taking a lot of suggestions right now.
So,
How's the campaign going?
Hey,
Hello.
how are you?
Good to see you.
Good to see you. You're doing signatures.
And then you
Noonie.
that is Kate.
Do you mind filling it out?
Oh, it's okay.
Down here?
What's that? You guys, oh, that's very nice. Okay.
We're going
I didn't realize that.
Actually, don't do any.
Just that, yeah, for all the gatherers, need to put on the bottom they were circulated.
Yeah, I had to sign it. You actually did.
Thank
You
you.
do have blanks here, Jim.
What's that?
You have blanks, right?
Yes.
I do. I think Sarah has blanks.
Step
This is Kate.
Okay, Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
How's the campaign going? Help yourself, there's all kinds of stuff.
It's going pretty well. This one issue about trying to find a campaign space, that's where we're at right now. Other than that, once we get that, I think we can, people are asking, where do I go? And like, well, you're in a campaign space.
Yeah. And that's so
When we have that,
important.
it's really important. Now so that's like a little stall we have. But we have a great presence at Pride. We're going to be part of the Dice March and the Trans March, and we have signatures gathering all over the city, and it's been pretty well. I have an event, in the Sunset next week with a lot of surfers in the Surf Bell part of San Francisco.
is that a riptide?
It was going to be a riptide, but the owner of Riptide said, no way, Jose. So I said, my name's Juan, but it didn't work.
We know the owner.
You want to talk to him?
That's
Yeah, and Mike's
Quimby,
plays
right?
there too.
Isn't that Quimby? That's his name?
Yeah.
Was that the
We know people who play at that bar
Paul
too.
Quimby?
If you know the owner, that could be helpful. Maybe we could do something later on. But he's like, I don't do any campaign events. And,
He just want to alienate.
Is that Paul Quimby?
I heard they did do campaign events in the past. So I did some legislation last year that upset some people who run bars. It was actually really good legislation. I just talked to a bar, the guy who owns the Uptown, and he said, hey, I had no problem with that legislation. It wouldn't cause me any much damage as well. But the alcohol lobby really, pushed down on it. And so some bartenders are like a little, wary, but it really wasn't going to cause a lot of harm. So that could be one reason. I don't know.
Well, what was the law?
The law was saying that, we have a big budget deficit, and the city pays a lot of money to people who need, public health services for alcohol use. And so we were going to charge the distributors who sell alcohol to the city, it was like 5 cents a drink. Even less than that, it was like 3 cents a drink. And they said, well, we're going to pass it on to the bars and the restaurants.
3 cents.
3 cents a drink is like nothing. And all the bars and restaurants, because there was these lobby firms and all the alcohol industry paying a lot of money to do organizing, they put the fear of big government against them, and so, they all came out against it. Actually, Bruce was one of the proponents of the Avalos.
That was the nonprofit I worked for, is Marine Institute. We're an alcohol industry watchdog.
Okay.
So we worked with his office to try and.
Well, sometimes people don't understand, like they think it's being spun one way or the other, or they don't.
Yeah.
It's not always clear. Like sometimes you can revisit that and people will understand it in different ways.
Yeah.
And a lot of people understood it, and in fact, the city inevitably, you have a lot of people who are homeless who are here, we inevitably have to, cover services for people who have a disability for alcohol. And so we just want to make sure we could have some funding to cover that, and that was it. That was the idea. And it wasn't going to be that expensive. And
Was the restaurant association also involved in that?
They were against it, but when you do some straw polls, like you go to bars and you ask people who are actually patrons, they'll say a nickel a drink. Yeah, why not? I'm going to drink.
Because it's
like 25 cents for the night. It's like big deal.
It's not even 8 cents in the parking
and you
meter.
imagine what the overall alcohol industry, what it's worth in San Francisco, it's probably worth billions and billions of dollars. It's going to be $17 million. That was what we're trying to get, $17 million to cover the cost of like helping people who are like chronically homeless off the street. And not a lot to do, but so there was, we put the fear of God to
What
people.
about a quarter drink and put it in the jar and everyone who's too drunk to get home at the end of the night gets a free cab ride?
Some people were saying they would be okay if somebody put a bucket up there and they could throw
That
their.
could offset it, because that would encourage people to drink more.
Right.
Well, there's that problem.
But a lot of people were.
There's always a hidden.
Yeah, but it was interesting. A lot of people would also say, you know, that's actually a good thing, because if I ever needed those services, or if my family member or my friends ever needed them, I wanted to make sure that they're there. And even though I may not be an alcoholic, you know, but somebody else
My
might.
best friend maybe.
Yeah, right, exactly. Or they may need it. You get alcohol poisoning, you want to make sure you have an emergency plan to go
I mean,
to.
it's not the most, it's not a progressive tax, but
Yeah.
it's progressive, it's a bit regressive, but it's
Well,
still covering a service that we have to pay for inevitably.
It's a good idea. Whether it's progressive or not, it's a good
Well,
idea.
they-
It's solid on the issue.
The idea is also, you know, for some of these kind of products that they should pay for some of the harm they cause. Especially young.
We tax tobacco, not enough to pay
Well-
for the harm it causes, but
Right.
sin taxes have a long history in American politics.
Well, excuse me, we passed the precautionary principle.
That's right.
When is that going to be applied?
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know, that
More
keeps coming
more
up.
guideline than a
Right.
binding,
Exactly. Like not a requirement.
Who's scheduling?
What?
Is that also? Nate?
who does my scheduling?
For the campaign.
It's probably Francis, and right now Raquel, because Francis is on vacation right now.
John, what do you think are shaping up to be the hot topics in the mayor's debate and the mayor's race?
For me, affordable housing, good government. Everyone talks about good government, but,
And how did you find?
But we haven't had one yet.
well, people who are willing to talk openly about how Mayor Ed Lee was appointed mayor, people who are willing to talk openly about how the board president was selected. Or
Yeah, but that's passed, so go present.
I think it's really about making sure that we have government that is open and that is transparent. But I think when you talk about it, you can't reference what happened in the past, then who's to say what you can do in the future? I actually believe that we need to have more open government that we can show budgets that we have, that we approve, that people have a sense of what our decisions are going to be before we make our decision. That's often in the dark. There's a lot of backroom deals that are made. The Twitter deal was a backroom.
So do you not believe in the Twitter deal?
I did not believe in the Twitter deal. The Twitter deal to me was, first of all, we have this whole discussion about large corporations like GE made $16.2 billion in profit last year, didn't pay any taxes whatsoever. And you have a lot of people who are very upset around the country about how these large corporations are getting away with these loopholes. And so you have people at the local level who are opposed to these loopholes that are happening. Well, how can you be opposed to loopholes at the national level and you're going to allow them to happen at the local level? To me, the Twitter tax giveaway was a loophole at the local level. At the same time, we're giving a tax break to the investors of Twitter, many of whom are multi-millionaires who probably don't need a tax break. We are increasing class sizes in our schools. My wife's a teacher in another school, and her class size is going from 22 students this year to 35 students next year. And I have a lot of parents in schools who are saying, who aren't even political, and saying, thank you for your vote on Twitter. I don't agree with that. My class size is going up for my kids next year. I'm really concerned about that. We're leasing out clubhouses in our Rec and Park department. We're leasing out clubhouses, and because the Rec and Park department no longer has the general fund support to be able to keep the clubhouses open. So you lease them out to some organization that's going to run services there, but those services are only there for the people who are receiving those services. For the seniors who might want to use the service, or for the community group that wants to have a meeting space. When that door is locked, that door is locked from, say, 5 to 9 o'clock the next morning, and you have no access anymore. That's not how we should be running our city. I believe one of the issues that's coming up is Rec and Park. And Rec and Park is a service that serves the whole general public of San Francisco. We should all have access to the Rec and Park facilities. We shouldn't expect to pay more fees or have new fees established for the use of our public services. We pay our tax dollars to renovate our public Rec and Park facilities. We should expect that those services are going to be available to us. And when we issue bonds to rebuild and renovate our parks, let's get inside our parks. Let's enjoy them. And I think that we are seeing a limitation of our access. And I believe that should be one of the main issues, the one I want to campaign on. But it's not one that to me was about just this mayor's race. I've been working on it for a number of years.
But how do you? So I'm a small business who pays payroll taxes. And so I get pissed that Twitter is getting this exemption on their payroll taxes. At the same time, I look at that portion of Market Street as being a dive and needs to come up, and you need to bring people in. So what's going to bring them up? At the same time, I walk in Golden Gate Park every day and was furious at the fees in the Arboretum. So I'm furious at the privatization at the park. So my question to you is, how do you balance all of this? I mean, I'm a small business person that has to pay payroll taxes, so I don't like Twitter getting free payroll taxes. But at the same time, we need to upgrade this section of Market Street to infuse money into the city so that maybe we have enough money so we don't have to charge taxes or fees in the park. So you're against the Twitter thing, so what would you do to rejuvenate? I mean, I'm conflicted on this, and so I don't know, so you say you're against the Twitter thing, and I'm not so sure I'm against the Twitter thing, because I think that something needed to be done in this section of Market Street to get it to come alive. So what would you do to do that?
Well, first of all, there's been a lot of work that's been done in looking at whether tax breaks are really stimulatory for the economy, and there's no real proof that they are. So it's like a big bone, it's more public perception that you're able to provide.
Well, okay,
people.
no,
but
you need to get the people into the neighborhood. So
was Twitter really going to leave San Francisco anyway?
Well, I think Twitter was.
A couple things. So let me.
I married to him.
Let me say, San Francisco city government's put a lot of resources lately over the past few years into Market Street.
Yeah.
We've done incredible streetscape work. We've done a lot of bike improvements. All the people who work at Twitter, a lot of 65% of them are cyclists. We put a lot of arts programming in it, support arts and bring new arts programs into the mid-market area. There's new entitlements that we've given for developing new buildings. There's a city place, shopping area that's going to be going in on 8th and Market. So there's all these changes that are happening all over that are actually changing the makeup of the neighborhood and what people's expectations of it are, and that it's moving forward. So I think that's going to change.
Without the Twitter thing.
And Trinity, the new apartment buildings there are bringing residents there as well, while keeping the same tenants that were there in the past. So Twitter, Gavin Newsom had a campaign office for the lieutenant governor that was given to him free. I'm not questioning all the political backlog on what went in with Twitter, but I'm just saying that what is, I'm looking at what else can be done to rejuvenate that section that will give us the most influx of money that eventually Twitter would give.
Well, I think to me what's important about it is when Gavin Newsom was mayor, he really messed up because he was supposed to do away with payroll taxes and create a gross receipts tax. And that way, you get a much bigger chunk and a much regular flow of money from these big businesses. When big corporations
think about that. That might hurt me.
but then if you don't have to pay payroll taxes, you think about it.
Well, I have gross receipts and I have payroll, so
that's right. But now you have to pay both. So,
there's a whole discussion about whether, I don't believe in the discussion, but there's a discussion, I don't believe in the tenor of the discussion, that whether we should have a business tax at all. Well, I do believe we need to have a business tax. I believe that we need to be able to have to pay for the infrastructure that supports business, public protection, safety, transit, trees, beautification, all that.
Oh,
It's
no,
like,
I will gladly pay my taxes. I think Proposition 13 is one. But, I'm a real estate agent. But, I'm just saying that, you say, oh, it gets to Twitter, and I understand that because initially I was like, oh my God.
I live in a part of San Francisco where we need to rejuvenate our commercial corridors, and there's no attention whatsoever to the real blight, the commercial corridors that are in the Excelsior District, that are on Geneva, that are in Visitation Valley, that are in Bayview, Hunters Point, even the Sunset.
Would you consider doing what they did to the Market Street corridor out there? And if they did it out there, would that then compensate?
Tax breaks over that?
A payroll tax breaks over that?
I would not, because I don't believe tax breaks really, really work to attract business. There's been a lot of studies on it, the enterprise zones that we've had, from the Clinton administration.
No, because I'm a firm believer in taxes. I was just curious on what your attitude toward that was.
What I had heard was that some of the businesses along Market Street that, I'm talking like 6th, 7th, 8th, along there, that some of them weren't being given opportunities to have a new lease. So it's like, how do you, and I think that some people were thinking, oh, that there's going to be this tax break, and so we're going to try to draw people in, so we, the businesses that are just eking out a living,
Try the other door.
that are eking out a living, and providing jobs and stuff like that, we're getting frozen out, It's kind of like when Moscone expanded to the west.
I totally believe in taxes. I think we all should be more taxed. I'm just trying to.
So there was I did support. It wasn't like a tax break, but I didn't like it was like we were making an exception for a particular neighborhood when there are other neighborhoods that were deserving of support.
Absolutely.
So Ross Vickery, he sponsored another piece of legislation that the real issue with Twitter was that when they went public and the employees were starting to sell their stock, their windfall they wouldn't be able, they would get taxed on that. The company would get taxed on it, not the employees. And so that was the way our payroll tax worked, and that was it's only payroll tax in the whole United States that works that way. In fact, there are very few jurisdictions that have a payroll tax. So what Ross did, he put a cap on what we could take in when a company goes public and people sell their stock, employees sell their stock. And so you were able with that to eliminate that whole problem of trying to get like a $20 million at once windfall that Twitter would find difficult. There's about 8 companies in the past 10 years that have actually gone public and been taxed that way, but Twitter was only one. And so that to me was more uniform, it was across the board. It was much more fair, I believe, for businesses all across San Francisco. And it wasn't saying to the grocery store on Potrero Hill, which happens to have the owners have a grocery store also on Cortlandt, who came out against the tax break, that they were getting some, these other people were getting something that they weren't getting. They didn't think it was fair. And so, to me, that's a much better way of doing it, something that's more uniform. I would like to go to a gross receipts tax versus a payroll tax, because I think the gross receipts tax has some disincentive on hiring staff. The payroll tax actually covers the number of, you're taxed by the number of employees you have and how much they earn. So it's really based on that formula.
What's it going to take to switch that though, John? Would it take a ballot initiative? Would you guys pass something at the board to switch that around?
We can't do it at the board. We have to do a ballot initiative. And in fact, I've been working on it for years. It's really kind of unnerving to me. Yeah, so I worked on it the first year. I worked for Chris Daly, and Chris Daly's office as legislative aide. I started looking at all these tax measures, looking at income tax. We were prohibited by state law doing income tax here in San Francisco. Look at the gross receipts tax. And so went through a whole process with a lot of, business people and unions and people concerned about government. And we were ready to go down that line, and we had legislation that was drafted. At the same year, that's when the Healthy San Francisco program began, and everyone wanted to back that measure instead, so we held off with the gross receipts tax. And then in 2008, that was an election year. It was hard to actually get people together to do it. I was focused on my own election. The supervisor, I think, I was hoping it happened last year. David Chu said he was going to work on it. I let him do it, and it didn't get done. I worked on, and then instead I authored the increase to the real estate transfer tax. That passed by the voters last year. It's brought in about $55 million so far this year, an increase in taxes.
Well, talking about urban blight too, because I know here on Valencia Street, Modern Times bookstore has closed. And what's that, Chiku's, the crepe place that's been around for a long time, closed. And my understanding, closed. Both closed, my understanding is because the landlords and the leases. And I think if you want to talk about urban blight, it seems to me to be a problem with the landlords that are going to charge exorbitant rents, even in these blighted areas. And can we do something to tell these landlords, hey, if you're just going to intentionally keep these places empty, it almost seems like they're being rewarded maybe in federal taxes or something in keeping those places empty. Is there anything the city can do to say, hey, you've got to make these commercial lease spaces affordable, if not the city's going to do something to say, hey,
Or you're charged for keeping them empty for a certain period of time.
Exactly.
We actually passed legislation, it is. Good. We actually passed legislation about that last year, but I'm not seeing a difference, so I'm ready to jack up the fees. I live in the Excelsior. We have this one back in the Excelsior peak, like in the 60s, and it hasn't really recovered from that loss of that peak. There's a Woolworth site on the corner of Harrington and Mission Street in Excelsior. The landlord has not kept that building up at all. Has had 12 years I've been there. It was a furniture store for like 3 years, and now it's nothing. It's completely blighted. It's completely blighted. It's got boarded up windows. It's got trash cans in front. People are like selling, whatever they find in the street on the corner. It's just like really.
Doesn't he want to rent that to you?
And that person has not taken responsibility for attracting businesses, for keeping up the property, for taking care of the commercial corridor, and I'm ready to go to town with this guy. I'm ready to let's.
Well, let's go to town with it all. I know Kevin Danaher of Global Exchange has been wanting for many years to put a green bar, some sort of like green business emporium somewhere in the city, and he has not been able to do it because the landlord.
I just saw an email from him yesterday,
and just like no way, and he's like, unless I have a mountain of cash to throw down, he can't get anywhere.
Well, you could throw that. You can find a mountain of cash in a $6.6 billion budget.
I wonder if
You can find a mountain of cash in that.
I want to come back to charging for vacant space. Right.
Wait, we just got started having a whole conversation.
Well, I want to cut it because we're having a great conversation. We're running out of time. A whole bunch of people came in since we started, so I, would like to welcome them, but actually welcome all of you guys into our house. All this beautiful stuff. Vicky's the beautiful person in this house. She's a beautiful person in all the stories. But I also want the new people to have a chance for John to address them. Let everyone know why Mr. Avalos here is the next mayor of San Francisco. So I'm wondering if we could just spend a few minutes, because it is getting close to 9 o'clock, if John, maybe you could just let everyone. Yeah.
Okay.
So a few words from the mayor.
Everybody needs a living wage. Oh, to get him through. Everybody needs a living wage. See that single mom over there. See the senior with the blue-gray hair. Immigrant laborer and in-home care. All the workers you see everywhere. Everybody needs a living wage. Oh, to get him through. Get him through. Everybody needs a living wage. It's not enough to to give someone some pay. You gotta keep the landlord away. You gotta have food for the kids today, and keep the bill collectors at bay. Everybody needs a living wage. Oh, to get 'em through. Everybody needs a living wage. We're gonna fight until they cannot stop. We're gonna fight until the mighty fall. Until the wealth is in the hands of all. Until the poor, they are walking tall. Everybody needs a living wage. Oh, to get 'em through. Get 'em through. Everybody needs a living wage. Corporate greed has kept us all so down, but we're gonna turn it all around. Sing it loud if you know the sound. So many voices no longer bound. Everybody needs a living wage. Oh, to get 'em through. Get 'em through. Everybody needs a living wage. Everybody needs a living wage. Everybody needs a living wage. Everybody needs a living